I know, look, it's a tricky week, isn't it? There's this Olympic Games thing that's happening over the other side of the world in a slightly different time zone. And for some people, it's like, look, I'll just pick up the highlights on social media. For other people, it's literally a deep dive into the play-by-play of what is happening with the Olympics. I'm probably more the former than the latter, honestly. But taking a little bit of a theological view of the Olympic Games and some of the flag waving behind it. Head of Theology at Laidlaw College, Dr. Myk Habets. Myk, kia ora. Nice to see you again.
Yep, kia ora. Nice to be back.
So what category would you find yourself in? Are you full-on, glued to the screen, you've got the Sky package, play-by-play Olympics guy, or just sort of read the TikTok afterwards?
No, more the former. Love sports, love Olympics, world champs. Can't get enough of it. Can't get enough. I'm 53 now. It's really only the last few years where I'm watching this stuff and I'm not fooling myself that one day I could be in that 100-meter
race. Yeah, probably your Olympic days are behind you, Myk. But there's
although look, my fastest 100 was 10.99. So if I was a female, I might be last in a heat, but I might have got there, but I'm not. So.
No, and sticking with your gender for the time being, at least.
That's right.
Something which is, I suppose, a part of the Olympics. Yes, there's the sport, and allegedly that's the main reason for it. But there is, of course, the pomp, the ceremony, the flag waving. And look, if flag waving is acceptable anywhere, it would be at the Olympic Games. That we are quite rightly, feel good about New Zealand athletes when they win, whether they're wearing the New Zealand flag or the silver fern, whatever that looks like. It may even be an opportunity where pride, some type of national pride, could be a good thing. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Patriotism is not ruled out biblically or theologically, but it can be a source of pride or it can be a vice.
Yeah.
And so there is in Scripture, we're created and told to form really close, loving bonds with people, family, society, community, and that quite naturally means that we should be proud, quite rightly, about a whole lot of stuff, including where we live. The land is really important. So there is an aspect to that. There is a point at which it crosses over into being a vice.
Yeah.
And then we've got some big problems at the extreme end. We're looking at the global stage. And when was the last time there wasn't a war going on in the world?
Exactly. Yeah. And
not
look,
within living memory.
In terms of the flag waving and the nationalism, apparently Hitler was really into the Olympics. Maybe that should be a little bit of a warning sign in terms of saying, hey, our race is better than your race. Our people are better than your people. Now, there's some biblical examples for that, but let's not get lost in the weeds. That comparison game, we're better than you, can be a bit of a slippery slope, of course.
Oh, absolutely. And we did some work a while back, produced a book on a theology of sport and play.
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating. When does something like sport cease to be playing, enjoyment, entertainment, and become something else? Many would argue, I'm not saying I completely defend it, but as soon as people get paid to do what they do, it becomes a job. That's really interesting. And you look at some, I don't know if you've ever read Andre Agassi's autobiography. He hated playing competitive tennis, which staggers the imagination. Why didn't you quit? It was his livelihood. He had people depending on him. It ceased to be sport and enjoyment. It became something else. Often, though, the dark side of patriotism, it becomes nationalism. And when it becomes a nationalism and you wed that to some form of faith or ideology, like you brought up Hitler, he did that remarkably well for evil ends. We're seeing this across the world at the moment, the Western world particularly, where so-called Christian countries, well, even that's even problematic. Christian countries, therefore, to defend my Christianity, I'm defending my country as if there was no distinction. Now we're into severe problems, I would suggest.
And somebody else is very fond of flag waving in a way which doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to a Kiwi way of seeing things of the United States, of course. And being a flag waver, being patriotic is a bit of a vote catcher, especially in an election year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, it's this, we're always tempted in Christianity to to confuse our Christianity with our culture. And
Yeah.
when we baptize our culture as completely Christian, then my culture is correct, your culture is wrong, because God says it's that so. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm even a bit uncomfortable with, say, the third stanza of what is a wonderful national anthem that we have in New Zealand. The third stanza, peace not war shall be our boast. Great.
Yeah.
But shall foes assail our coast, make us then a mighty host, God defend our free land. I was at a conference, we sang the national anthem, a Christian conference. I didn't sing that verse. I just quietly hummed,
Yeah.
didn't sing the lines. The person next to me did the same. Afterwards, he goes, I noticed you didn't sing that. I said, I noticed you didn't.
Yeah.
He goes, no, I think that crosses the border. I'm not sure I should take up arms and shoot fellow Christians, because there will be Christians in other countries, right?
Yeah.
To defend who governs the borders of my country.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not sure that's Christian.
Yeah, we're seeing that, of course, play out around the world. And as you mentioned, it's been a while since we haven't had a major war. Significant conflicts happening between Ukraine and Russia. Both would say God is on their side. The same with Israel and Gaza, and that is dominating our news at the moment. This is, again, a space where we go, nationalism is all important. It's us versus them, the othering of the people who have a different coloured flag to ourselves. I mean, othering our enemies, that's important to justify whatever happens in the name of war.
Yeah. Now, look, we've got texts like Romans 13 and a whole bunch of other texts which are really important to say governments are put in place by God, and their job is to uphold justice, fairness, equity. And so I'm not saying that we shouldn't fight for such things. We should protect the innocent. We should have structures. And in democratic societies like ours, we're incredibly fortunate where we can exercise a whole lot of rights in order to. But I mean, let's face it, whether it's red or a blue government in New Zealand, we're pretty good, right, in terms of that stuff. We're very fortunate. There does become a point at which we have to ask as Christians, am I protecting my cultural goods, or am I actually protecting my Christianity?
Mm-hmm.
When Romans 13, for instance, was given, they happened to have a Caesar in government, not very conducive to Christianity. Mm-hmm. And so in a hostile environment, even there we can flourish. We're told, 1 Peter 2:12 and other texts, that Christians should see themselves as aliens and strangers in a foreign world. That doesn't mean we have no bonds and links, as we said earlier, but it does relativize those. I'm reminded of a colleague of mine who went to his denomination's annual or biannual international conference. So I'll keep it ambiguous, but big denomination full of Christians. He was part of a think tank which put forward a proposition to vote on. The proposition was this: we commit to not shoot each other. We commit to not killing each other. That was the proposition. Yeah. Group of Christians internationally, can we sign on the line? I commit that, Andrew, I'm not going to intentionally kill you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
It was defeated. It was not passed because if my country goes to war against your country and we're both conscripted, then my duty to my country is to shoot you. Now, that's putting, I would say, nationalism and country and culture above gospel. So I was astounded and disappointed, but wow, that's the world we live in. And so it's good to have conversations like this. We're trying to be careful not to draw a hard line where that there's a bit of conscience there. Yeah. But that discussion has to be had, and we can have it in New Zealand, can't we?
I would certainly hope so. And I suppose it brings into stark contrast, when we're watching the Olympics and the Kiwis are doing well, and we really want our flag to be the victor and the other guy's flag to be the ones that lose. We want to come out on top in that regard, but literally when it's coming to warfare, what we're seeing in Ukraine and Israel and Gaza and Russia, it's literally weaponizing flags and nationalism, and at that point, difficult to hold on to justifiable faith and theology, I suppose.
Yeah, look, this controversial, again, I guess it deserves lots more discussion, but quite frankly, any number of countries could own New Zealand. Yeah. I won't name a country, but if country A declared war on New Zealand tomorrow, let's just say they've got hundreds of millions of people, their military is much much bigger than ours, which isn't difficult.
Yep.
It's a lay down misère. They're going to defeat us. If they declare war on us tomorrow, would I pick up arms to fight against them? Not as a Christian. No.
Yeah.
I can still be a Christian regardless of the government. Would I want that? And would I work towards non-violent ways to perhaps oppose it? Oh, look, that's fine. But I think even having that discussion, whereas when you raise these questions sometimes around dinner tables and around the water cooler, it's almost an offence to many Christians that our country and nationalism isn't the same thing.
Yeah.
And we're at the height of this modernity, post-modernity. Things are starting now to crumble. We've got the non-Western world is now starting finally to catch up and to get a bit of power, and wealth is starting to go that way. We know that Christianity now, the average Christian in the world statistically is an African who's under the age of 30. It's brown. It's quite different. That's going to bring a lot of opportunities and challenges. The conversation is going to change.
Yeah.
And I think if we don't prepare ourselves for that, we're just going to be dinosaurs left behind.
And hey, at the end of it, I suppose, there is a place for nationalism and flag waving, but at the end of the day, literally, every tongue, every knee, there were not going to be many flags there, I imagine, Myk. Every language, yes, every culture, but the flags we won't bring those along, right?
Yeah. Again, we'll bring our ethnicity, we'll bring our culture, we'll bring our language, it says the kings of the world will bring the goods that their culture has into that eternal city. So God is about all that stuff. That's wonderful. That is absolutely there, but not me opposed to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And not me or you. It's that togetherness. I mean, I think one of the great things in the gymnastics, I don't know if you've been watching that, Simone Biles. Well, aren't we fortunate to see the GOAT, right?
Yeah.
But she lost the individual on the mat to the Brazilian girl. I feel for that Brazilian girl, Adradne. Silver. She won gold. What are the two Americans? They applauded her. They praised her. They gave due respect to her. It was really good. They weren't less American in doing that, but they were certainly more human, and I would say probably more Christian too.
Yeah, certainly. Hey, some wonderful conversation started for this Olympic season that we're in. Myk, kia ora, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.